Man, it has to come down to the love versus fear dichotomy. There's no simpler way to put it. So the question we're examining here is, what is the difference between good and evil, and how do you consistently do good? And I just want to start by saying that if you are actually considering this question and want to act on it, then you are already doing better than probably 90% of people out there who never even consider this question. Most people operate on autopilot with their head down and never consider these types of things like good versus bad or right versus wrong, or more importantly, positive versus negative impact, all that type of stuff. So good on you, and thank you for investing the time and the mental and emotional bandwidth required to actually examine this question, because it is one of the most important questions that human beings can consider. You know, philosophers have been debating this for, well, since the dawn of humanity, right? One of the inherent issues with this question is subjectivity. Good and evil can look very different from different people's perspectives. Realizing that other people's perspectives are just as valid as your own is a major breakthrough in life. And some people never get there. Some people are so wrapped up in their own bullshit and can only see the world through their own subjective lens or perspective, or at least they only try to see the world through their own lens or perspective. And I think that there's a major problem with that. People convincing themselves that they're right and other people are wrong. That's a major issue that we face in society and humanity overall. So realizing that other people's subjective perspectives and experiences are just as valid as your own is incredibly important. But learning to see the world from other people's perspectives doesn't answer that core question we're examining here of what is good and what is evil, and how to do good and surround yourself and spend your time with other people who are also doing good. What I have learned is that it ultimately comes down to the impact that you have on others. Goodness comes from serving others, badness comes from harming others. So of course, after coming to this realization, the natural thing to do is to go out there and try and serve and help others. And so what does this look like? It means, going out there and trying to help other people. And there are so many different ways that you could potentially do that. And once you go out there and you start trying to actively help other people and serve other people, it's not long before you get confronted by another major obstacle. And this is a journey that I have gone through, and am sharing it because I think it's very important, and I hope it helps you. The obstacle or challenge that presents itself when you do focus your time and energy on helping other people is that you can't assume to know what actions you can take to actively help somebody else. And this goes back to that subjectivity issue. Everyone is living their own life, and you can't assume that you understand from a distance what will actually help them. You also can't help people who haven't realized this themselves, that good comes from serving others and bad comes from harming others. And there's also this element of you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. I saw someone talk recently about the fact that sometimes people aren't ready for their blessings. And as much as you might try and give them those blessings, give them help and support, help them see the light and live the life that they were destined to live, you can't force someone to do that. And if they're not ready, you're just harming yourself and them by trying to force them into that. So what's missing from this conversation, or us actually getting to a concrete, usable answer on the distinction between good and evil here? We need something simpler and more actionable than good comes from helping others and bad comes from harming others, because that's just not usable, and it presupposes that we understand what will help and what will harm another person. One of the most powerful theories that I have ever come across, it is directly applicable here, and I find it expands to cover just about everything that we humans struggle with. It's from the psychologist Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. You may not have heard of her specifically, but I can pretty much guarantee that you're familiar with some of her other work. Her most popular work is the 5 stages of grief, and a lot of people are familiar with that theory. This same person came up with another theory that I try to live my life by every single day, and she said that all human emotion is rooted in either love or fear. Any other emotions that you feel can ultimately be traced back to one of those 2 base or root emotions. And like I said, I've kind of built my entire life around this theory now, and when I am going about my day-to-day life, I am constantly trying to ask myself and reflect on whether or not I am acting out of love or fear, and asking why I am so sure about my answer. Because I find that if I cannot definitively say, yes, I am acting out of love, then I'm probably acting out of fear. So I think we've actually very quickly come to a bit of an answer or conclusion here. Instead of trying to help others, like going out into the world and trying to help others, which essentially demands that you be a mind reader and be able to predict what they need better than they can probably even do themselves. Instead of that, just focus on consistently acting out of love. Examples of acting out of love include being present with someone, actively listening to understand their point of view, not just to respond with your own, focusing on being connected with the other person instead of trying to prove yourself right. This is something I love doing all the time. Asking someone to breathe with you if they are sort of spinning out or they're in like a fear-based state. And of course, as an entrepreneur, I have to mention, an acting out of love could include investing time and effort into a big project that you think will provide value to others, but where the gratification may be long or delayed. I find too that when in doubt, it is very valuable to bring your focus back to the present. It's very easy to act out of love when you're right here, right now. It's very easy to let fear take over if you're thinking about the choices and mistakes that you made in the past, or the many different ways that the future could potentially unfold. Don't focus on what was or what could be. Focus on what is and express calm and love and gratitude for it right then and there. And as with any of this personal development stuff, it's not about being perfect all the time. That is just unreasonable. It's about trying to do good as often as possible and to act out of love as often as possible, of course, and catching yourself and fixing it faster when you do fall out of perfection, you might call it. When you do catch yourself acting out of fear, it's about catching that quicker and bringing yourself back to that love state much faster. And I promise you that if you start acting this way and focusing on consistently acting out of love instead of fear, everything in your life will change faster than you can imagine. Your entire energy and vibe will be different, and people will definitely notice. You will have people thanking you just for being there for them. You will have people asking if you're way younger than you already are. That happens to me all the time. People will tell you that you're like glowing. Things will just feel like they're clicking for you, like you're able to flow through life with less obstacles and challenges standing in your way. And I am speaking from experience here because I used to be a very, very fear-based person. I was constantly essentially trying to pick fights with people, not physically, but like mentally and emotionally. I always had my guard up. It was a horrible life, to be honest. And now that I focus on acting out of love consistently, hey, things are far from perfect, but I'm surrounded by amazing people who are also love-based, love-motivated people. And I just make it a priority to express gratitude to the people and the things in my life. And everything is different for me now. Trust me, the obstacles and challenges are still coming. Instead of viewing them as something that, the world has put in your path because life is unfair, it's more you will view them as a test to see whether you can still act out of love, even in the face of the challenges that are thrown in your path. And the beauty is, if you do approach those challenges and obstacles with a love and gratitude perspective, you can overcome them and become someone who is able to handle more. And that's really beautiful. And especially as an entrepreneur, I think that's just the name of the game in general. Beyond just the impacts on you, you will notice the impacts of your love-based behavior and outlook and presence on other people, especially if you go so far as to share this information with them. Both love-based actions and emotions and fear-based actions and emotions are contagious. So think about what impact you want to have on the people around you. Imagine entire communities focused like this on acting out of love instead of fear. Imagine the impacts of dozens or hundreds of people with this focus and presence. I don't know, I guess I'm saying just get this stuff out there. Share this stuff with the people in your lives. Go out and act out of love and good instead of fear and evil, and try and hold the people in your life accountable to doing the same. I guess if you've watched this far into this video, you are clearly someone who is interested in what it means to act out of love instead of fear and to do good in the world instead of evil. And I think that's pretty cool. So thank you for spending this time with me. If you're motivated to, please leave a comment below with how you plan to act out of love instead of fear moving forward. Share some love in the comments, because the more, the merrier. And let's elevate together. Peace.